Welcome back, my fellow duplicants. Today, I've got a little bit of a design challenge, and the design challenge is based off of a comment that was in response to my last video, which is the episode Too Slow to Eat, the 3 printer challenge, episode 20. And in that episode, I'm starting to run into a problem where I don't have enough dirt in the base. Now, you guys left some good comments here. Edward actually mentioned something that I think is really important. It says dirt cooking fertilizer at 125 degrees Celsius, which is the temperature at which fertilizer will then melt into dirt, is much more easier, I guess, or more effective than boiling a bunch of polluted water because of just how much polluted water it actually takes to get like 10 kilograms of dirt out of it. So that makes a lot of sense. So the goal of today's video here is to come up with a system that is going to cook fertilizer into dirt and then have a way to cool it back down so then we can feed it to our plants and they'll be happy. And we can also use dirt for all of its important things, such as doing research and all of that. Or feeding your outhouses and so on and so forth. Dirt is really important. However, a second idea for a future video, not this one, but I'm going to mention it anyhow because I think it's kind of an interesting idea. We know that when liquid comes out of the natural gas generator, it comes out at the temperature at which this natural gas generator is. And this natural gas generator, if made of gold amalgam, can go up to a temperature of 125 degrees Celsius. At 120 degrees Celsius, polluted water will turn into steam. So you've got a 5-degree window of opportunity to potentially have the liquid that's coming straight out of this natural gas generator go straight to steam. So how am I going to do this? Well, one thought I had was actually using a method that I did a long time ago in a video that was easy steam with a chlorine space heater. And all this thing was a way to kind of trick that space heater into increasing the temperature of liquid. Now the reason is because the space heater can go up to 175 degrees Celsius if it's made of gold amalgam. And it governs itself to 70 degrees in the surrounding area. However, with the changes to the thermodynamics of inside the game, of how things are transferring and averages and whatnot, I don't think it's really going to work anymore. So the original idea, was to have oil down here that I could increase to above 125 degrees Celsius and then leave chlorine, which isn't very thermally conductive, above that, so that we can just basically not have to worry about all the heat going into the gas, but actually transfer a lot of that heat into the liquid at a temperature that's above whatever's going into the gas. And you could just like siphon off the rest of that heat with water. For the sake of it, I'm going to try that, but I don't think it's going to work. I think what we're going to end up with is a couple of liquid tepidizers that are working, one against each other. So you have a really hot side and a really cold side. But let's start off, with the little space heater thing, just to, maybe it'll work. Maybe, I don't know. We're gonna mop this stuff up and we're gonna clear it out. So in that previous setup, I had something like granite for the tile on top. There wasn't any metal tiles at the time. Nothing too fancy like that. We couldn't do all of that fun stuff. It was just a little bit, the game was a little bit different back then. So what we're going to do, just to kind of set this up, is I'm just going to have some water up here. That water is going to absorb a bunch of, energy that this space heater is going to put off. So here we go, a little bit of water. Bloop. So this will more or less keep its temperature. You can see that right down here. This is about 20 degrees Celsius. And that above it is 9 degrees. And if I put down here some chlorine, and this will just be chlorine gas, we'll just put 1 kilogram in this entire area, so it's not very dense at all. What you can quickly see is this chlorine increased in temperature rapidly because it's now taking the average of gold amalgam and chlorine, their thermal conductivity. So even though the thermal conductivity of chlorine is quite low, I mean, we're talking 0.008, the thermal conductivity of gold amalgam is still 2, which is, decent enough to actually increase the temperature. So what we're going to see is that this is going to fairly effectively heat up chlorine down here, and it'll probably start to throttle pretty soon. Yep, so right off the bat, it's starting to throttle. Now, had I taken some dirty water, right, and we put that down there, this would, in the old system, actually allowed this space heater to run and heat up this polluted water to such a temperature that it would actually turn into steam. So if we take a look at the temperature of the water, it's maintaining 39.4 degrees, so it's not really increasing at all. Wow, maybe I put way too much in there. Hang on. Let's try 4 kilograms. It's very small amounts that you're actually using for this method. So you can see the temperature of the water is increasing up to 75. Now it's up to 80. Now the space heater is running temperatures up to 93. I want to see the space heater actually operate at 125 or above. The environment cannot go beyond 70 degrees here. So whereas this chlorine used to actually, stay nice and cool, I don't think it's really working anymore. Let's try some gold tiles though, right next to it. Whoa! What? How? Here we go, let's give it another try. This seems like it might actually be doing something. So the temperature of this metal tile is actually quite cool. However, the liquid is increasing in temperature, and I've got some dirt. Okay, so, I guess that system still works if you kind of make a couple of adjustments. Which kind of makes sense, because whatever that thermal conductivity between the gas and this space heater is still going to be different than, the liquid in the space heater, because the liquid's got a little bit higher thermal conductivity, so the average is still going to be higher. It's not going to be as efficient because you have to pump away a lot of more heat than what we had before, but okay, interesting. Interesting. It's kind of an old school style video here. We're just, I'm experimenting, and I'm taking you along for the ride. So here we go. We're going to do some oil now. And if I just put 5 kilograms of oil down here, how hot can I get this oil? Thermal conductivity is actually 2, so that's pretty good. Look at this. Crude oil up to 160 degrees Celsius. 174. How hot can I go? Can I go even hotter? No, it maxes out at 174. Interesting. So the chlorine is at 82.7, but it's 69.2 because it's cooling down because of the metal tile that's right next to it. Oh, how about that? But now the temperature of crude oil is actually going to drop quite quickly. All right, for the sake of it, let's go ahead and try to scale this idea up a little bit. Because what I like about this is that once I get dirt, it's not everything above it is going to be so hot that you can't run an piece of automated equipment. So let's go ahead and just use some metal tile. That'll be a good way to go. We'll get rid of all of this, and we'll actually just build it up a little bit more. So what do I need? I need a thermal sensor, and that's going to turn on or off an electric switch that runs that heater. So actually, let me just get rid of that. We'll put the heater that is under utilities. I mean, does anybody actually even use the space heater? I hardly ever use the space heater. Oh, and the space heater, look at that. It can even be automated. Never mind. Sweet. Saves yet another component. Okay, so we'll put a couple of these down here. I've got 9 tiles, so I'll put 9 kilograms of crude oil. That's not very much. You could easily deliver that with just a little bit of, a bottle emptier. So I've run power to it, and now I'm going to use a thermal sensor, and we'll just slap that right in between them, and then run an automation thingamabobber between those two, just like so. So here's the other thing I'm going to do. I'm going to use a storage compactor over here, and I'm actually going to make it out of abyssite. I know when I put something inside the storage compactor, we can use a smart storage compactor. Yeah, ha-ha! See? Okay, here's what I'm doing. Like I never use a smart storage compactor. Never, ever. It's all made of really thermally conductive stuff. Crap. Maybe I don't want to use one. Here's why. So, I'll do it without it to begin with, but then I'll do it with it later to see if it makes a difference. Okay, so the reason I'm not too crazy about the smart storage compactor all of a sudden is because it has a high thermal conductivity, because it's all of these refined metals, which means it's going to heat up the gas. It'll actually transfer a lot of energy from the liquid down here, this oil, into the gas above it, which is not really what I want. Bruh, just put it under the liquid, yo. Everybody's raging in the comments. Let's try that. All right. All right. Okay, hang on. Before we get crazy with it, storage compactor, abyssalite, simple. Okay, so let me just put some fertilizer inside of here. Ooh, maybe not 9 kilograms. We'll actually just put in a decent amount. What? It's at 1:1, so let's use 10 kilograms. That's probably a good way to go. Actually, you want that to be 20, because when you go to dig it up, it'll reduce by half. So there we have it. That is 10 kilograms of fertilizer. And then when I put a dupe up there, they'll sweep it in. So there could be a door next to this thing or whatever. There you go, Travaldo. Bink. I wonder if this weight plate understands if there's 10 kilograms on it. If it's in a storage compactor. Current pressure, 0. Okay, so above that, I'm going to use chlorine gas. We'll just put 9 kilograms of chlorine gas inside of here, and that'll spread out to all of these tiles. So once everything averages out, we're going to have 1 kilogram of chlorine above, and then 1 kilogram of crude oil below. All right, so let's run our first test. Everything is at 6.2 degrees Celsius. We're at the beginning of a cycle. I'm going to set this to be above 150 degrees Celsius. All right, so if it's anything below that, it should be active. So this is just played back at 3x speed. We can see the temperature already. This thing's already gone up to 30-something degrees Celsius right there. The heat production is 90 watts per space heater, and it uses 125 watts. So not terribly bad, you know, good or bad or whatever. Now there is methods for using the liquid tepidizer to get things up to temperature really quickly. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to do some sort of balancing act. So the crude oil is now at 79 degrees. I mean, we're almost halfway through this. The important thing here is that the fertilizer is absorbing the temperature from the oil, and it's already up to 62 degrees Celsius. So it's going up. And that's because it absorbs the temperature, and it absorbs it from this bottom tile inside of the storage compactor. Not the top, the bottom one. So the temperature of the chlorine up here is really not going anywhere. It's only getting up to about 20 degrees, and the temperature of the water above it isn't changing at all. I mean, it's really just as you would expect. I mean, there's a humongous amount of thermal capacity up there, specific heat capacity. This is also something that is very replenishable, as you can basically just pee on it. I didn't think this was gonna work, but this looks so simple. Look at this, we're just about up to 125 degrees Celsius. The fertilizer is nearly there. You can see that the temperature of this thermal sensor is 134 or 135 right now. And voila! Dirt. That was easy. All right, so in this experiment, it took 3/4 of a cycle to turn 10 kilograms of fertilizer into dirt. Now, once we dig this up, it'll actually be less than that. It'll be 5 kilograms of dirt, because you're going to lose half of it. Okay, so how do I sense that I have dirt now? Because what I want to see is I have dirt, and then this thing, you know, shuts off or whatever. See, the weight plate did not activate because you don't dig it up. How do I tell this system to turn off? I think the only way to possibly do that is to use a smart storage compactor, because that actually gives us an automation signal, which could turn this thing off. Unless there's another way. But what would the other way be? You know how we could do it? We could do it with a hydrosensor, because that dirt is going to displace. And if it will displace the crude oil, then we can set the sensor detect once the quantity of the oil goes up. All right. Yes. Okay, see how there's 663 grams of crude oil right there? All right. So here's what we can do, right? Because I want this to displace crude oil. So it's probably going to try to displace it. If I make a little pit here, then I can displace one whole tile of crude oil. I'm going to have to run to another cycle because that's not going to work. Okay, so you can see how we have more crude oil. Yeah. Okay, so this might be really, really simple. If I just put the hydro sensor right next to this, and then I use an AND gate over here, somewhere. There we go. Kind of like that. Bam! Get rid of these automation wires, which I'll have to like move out. Automation, help! There we go. And then dump this gold outside, so we don't need it. There you go, Travaldo. Enjoy your blocks of gold. So you can see right here the current pressure is 0.2. So if we go, let's say, above, or we'll say if it's below 0.3. So hopefully this liquid doesn't really move around too much. One other thought, though, is that we actually put this down in a pit. I don't know. Maybe I'll use the smart storage compactor. But for right now, this is what we're going to do. 150 degrees. It's below that, and that's going to run. So this should work. And it's still roughly about the same starting temperature. So here we go. Oh, the pressure is actually a little bit higher. Hang on. 0.08. No, 0.8. There. Aha, perfect. This will be a little bit different because now we have to heat up the hydro sensor and actually the AND gate as well. Probably want to place all of this stuff inside of there. Isolate it a little bit. The thing is, if you got all of this stuff going on inside of here, maybe it's just worth having a smart storage compactor. Coming up on 3/4 of a cycle now, and we're roughly 15 degrees behind of where we were last time. Interesting, it seems like the game has actually stopped increasing in temperatures as far as everything that's going on there. It seems to be stuck at 124 degrees Celsius. So maybe the water and what we're trying to transfer across here is just keeping it from working. So let's load up the previous one and go. All right, so at this point, I didn't realize I was experiencing a glitch. And what it was is that every time I would go and reload this map, for whatever reason, these heaters could not go above 125 degrees Celsius. So that sent me on a wild goose chase trying to figure out what in the world was actually going on here, thinking that some sort of metal or something was transferring heat into the water faster than the heaters could go at a certain temperature, blah, blah, blah. I tried many things, but what it ended up being was just a glitch in the game. So I'm just going to skip all of that and we'll join back up after I figured it out. This game hates me, man. It's like, your video was too simple. You've only been recording for an hour, but now you got to troubleshoot for the next hour just to figure out why in the world it randomly gets stuck at 124 degrees. That's what it was. I just had a random faulty space heater. See, if you replace the space heaters, now it's working appropriately. Look at that, 126, 128, 130, and we got dirt again. I feel betrayed. Like, I feel like the second you go ahead and reload your game, there's a chance that your cooker isn't going to work. Why? Because of a mysterious bug. But hey, you know what? I guess that's just the way, the game isn't complete yet. So, plus, this is kind of a weird way of using a space heater. Okay, so before I abandon this idea, let's try to do a little something more with it. Okay, so rather than just reload the game every single time I have an issue with it, or whatever, just to get like the same cycle, I'm not going to reload the game at this point. We're just going to have to start the next experiment at the next cycle, so it'll just be what it is. So we're going to dig this. Okay, so I'm going to paint in a little bit more crude oil. By a little bit more, it's actually quite a bit. So the crude oil down here is 183.9 kilograms. Actually, a fair amount. It's meant to fill up that tile. That way we can use the liquid sensor as I was expecting before, but instead of just looking at a 0.%, it'll actually be a much larger difference. So this will be abyssalite, and inside of there we can put the fertilizer. Okay, so here's the thing. This crude oil down here, unless there's enough to go above this tile, isn't actually touching this crude oil at all. So I need even more crude oil. So there we go, 383 down below, and then above that is, well, another mysterious number that seems to keep moving. No, more. I need more crude oil. There you go. Okay, so I have like 16 kilograms on top. There's actually a lot more crude oil floating around now. And therefore, the temperature of that crude oil is not increasing at all. It's like really, really slow. So doing that method isn't going to work. It needs to be just a little bit of crude oil. So here's a couple of things I'm going to do. First off, we're going to move this thermal sensor to the side. And then I'm going to use the storage compactor. And I'm just going to put it right in the middle. And for that, I think I might as well just use a smart storage compactor. You know what? Would that work? A thermal shift plate. Yeah. 1,000 ways to solve a problem. Here we go. Thermal shift plate. And we could just use something like copper. See, that will contact the oil. So if I only put 6 kilograms of crude oil in here, and I kind of just let it flow in, it's really just going to make a puddle on either side. So I actually have 12 in here. So hang on. Let me mop this up. Put 3 on each side. 3, 3. So not much in the way of crude oil around. Just very, very little. Okay, so I'm going to freshen up the amount of chlorine I have up here. And Trivaldo, where are you at, buddy? How about Max? Max will do it this time. No, come back here, Max. Where you going, Max? No! Get in your box! Oh, he wants to go to the bathroom, too bad. Max, if you don't come over here, I'm going to stick you in a smaller box. There you go. Thanks for cooperating. All right. Now, thank you. So if that is below 0.3, and that is, let's say, below 140 degrees at this point, then these space heaters should run. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is that the fertilizer is increasing in temperature. If I take a look at the overlay here, the thermal shift plate behind that is increasing in temperature. Now it's either grabbing heat from the wires or maybe the oil that's next to it. The point is it's actually working to transfer it into the storage compactor. What if I deconstruct it and actually get rid of it? What I see here is the fertilizer is not increasing in temperature now. So that thermal shift plate is absolutely necessary. Ha-ha! Ha-ha! Okay, here we go. We're going to put it back in. It's doing its job. It's thermal shifting. Y'all need more batteries, by the way. How much? Holy cow. Oh, I put a lot more chlorine in here. Oops. It doesn't really seem like the amount of chlorine there was making a big difference. So, now I can see the fertilizer. It's up to 103, 105. This thermal sensor over here on the left is doing 113. And this space heater is up to 120, so this is actually working out pretty good here. Ooh, and I got some dirt. And it shifted enough liquid, but not to like make a difference, but it now it's equal to 0.3. Well, all I have is below or above, oxygen not included, 0.25. No, you round on me. All right, so let's say we set it up for the exact number that it should be. Now maybe this activates a timer, right? And then that unlocks a door. Because what I'd want to see is this dirt come back down in temperature. But how long does that take? It takes a long time. Well, what happens if I go ahead and dig that up? Well, the oil didn't flow away, so that's kind of annoying.
Have some food, duplicates. Yes, there you go.
So how practical is that? Well, It took nearly a cycle to get 10 kilograms of dirt. And mealwood seed, well, it uses 10 kilograms per cycle. So we had to use a lot of watts just to make enough dirt for one mealwood seed. So even though this is fancy, I'm not sure if it's really going to work out. Let's go ahead and try something real quick here, though, before I get away from it. And that is going to be putting a large chunk of fertilizer in there. So this is 5 tons, and we're going to move that inside of here. Come on, Travaldo, you can do it, buddy. You can do it. I believe in you. Oh, looks like I've used him up. Ooh, he just did it. So I've got 5,000 kilograms inside of there. We're going to start this roughly just before the beginning of the next cycle. We can see that the temperature inside of here is really cold because I put that fertilizer in at a relatively low temperature. But let's see what happens here over the next cycle as I run quickly through it. And I think what we're going to see is that the amount of power that I can really put into this fertilizer is quite low. So 5 tons of cooked fertilizer would only be 2.5 tons of dirt. Yeah. So one cycle there, it barely budged the amount of fertilizer that I got. So really, I need to heat this stuff up quite a bit faster. So these space heaters, even though they are fancy and this is kind of a fun little system, it's only good for really, really small amounts of things. However, it did look like a way to actually turn, like, it looked like we could still make this system work, which is cool. But I'm glad you stuck with me for that 20-minute or whatever it was detour to possibly get to the natural conclusion that it just doesn't have enough power to do what we need it to do. So let's destroy everything and start over. So while that may not be a decent solution, there was a couple things that we did learn from that, which I think are going to be, potentially useful as far as using a space heater and actually kind of doing the different temperature thingamabobbers with it. I don't know. Maybe you guys will think of something to do with it. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe that's a good ice melter or something. I don't know. Hard to say. I think the liquid tepidizer, though, is going to be a little bit more up our alley. Why? Because everybody uses the liquid tepidizer for something ridiculous. I mean, like this. If you drip onto it, it kind of magically will generate steam because you can trick this thing in all sorts of different ways. The problem is that it makes things hot very, very fast. It's almost can make things too hot, which might be what we end up doing. So, what happens if we put a little bit of crude oil in here? And all we're going to do is put just a little bit on it. So 6 kilograms. And it's not submerged in liquid. Okay. Not submerged, not submerged, not submerged. So now I've added quite a bit of crude oil at this point. You can see it's still not detecting that it has any liquid on it. How much do I got there? Jeez, 86 kilograms? Bruh. Okay, that's taking too long. More oil, more oil, more oil, more. There we go. So this thing, the heat production, is 20 kilowatts as compared to 90. It's a big, big difference. And it runs off 1,000 watts. So don't ask me how that works, but man, does it produce a lot of heat. The thing is, it reaches its maximum temperature at 85.7 degrees. Like, it won't heat the environment beyond 85 degrees. Stinker. So what I see a lot of people do is this sort of trick, which is a bug or a glitch or something. I'm not sure if it's been patched yet, but some people do this number, right? If you put liquid there, what you can get is that this thing is going to heat up, and it'll actually heat this crude oil that's right on top of it, kind of trick it into running. And now, holy cow, the temperature's gone skyrocket. We're at 187 degrees Celsius, and it's overheating and destroying itself. Because what it's not doing is it's not heating this crude oil down here at all. So that is one of those methods where it's like we could continue to explore it, but at some point they're going to patch that away, and it's just not going to happen anymore. However, it is one way. So really, I think what we're going to come back to is this guy, thermal aqua tuner. Here's the problem. Look at how much power it uses. 1.2 kilowatts. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I have a liquid aqua tuner over here, and it's more or less just going to continue to cool its own radiant pipe loop. So that radiant pipe will actually create a very cold biome over here in the left side, which could also be used to cool parts of your base or whatever you really want to do with it. But the big thing is we're going to protect the thermal aqua tuner with a liquid sensor in the pipe so that you can't put something down there that'll then freeze and destroy the pipe. So if we take a look at the properties of crude oil, we can see that its freezing point is negative 40 degrees Celsius. However, its evaporation point is way up there at 400 degrees. So if we bring in crude oil over here on the right, and we just fill up this chamber so that it blocks just enough, we get about 3 tiles or so. That'll be our heating vat over here. So up here is going to be an auto sweeper. So once we get some dirt that has been moved down here and we dig it up, this will sweep up the dirt and it'll deliver it over here onto the left side. So I think what I'm going to do here is actually just leave these an airflow tile, because I'm pretty sure you can pass things through airflow tiles. Yeah. So what I'm also going to do is have just a little bit of chlorine gas, and that'll remain down here because chlorine gas is heavy. So even though I have oxygen around, and that oxygen will be really cold, the chlorine gas is going to be that buffer between the oxygen and kind of my heating chamber down here. I probably don't even need those there at all, actually. Could just kind of do that number. Okay, so the overheat temperature of the thermal aqua tuner inside of here is 175. So we're once again going to set this below 150. So that should heat up. So I'm going to run abyssalite pipes out of here. And then I'm going to use some of those radiant pipes over here on the left side. So over here is the hot side. Now this could be connected to a couple things. What I really want to do is actually take the dirt, right? So this is going to heat up, and then over here I want it to cool back down. And then maybe you come and you pick it up out of here or something like that. And this sensor here is set to be above negative 20 degrees Celsius. Why? Because the thermal aqua tuner will reduce that temperature by 14 degrees, if I remember that right. Negative 14 degrees. And that should see that heat transfer directly into the surrounding areas around it. Now here's kind of a problem. I need the same amount of liquid on both sides in this system, or pretty darn close to it, in order to kind of maintain a steady temperature. So what I actually need to do is have a pump over here on the left. Oh, it looks like I got a perfect spot for it. So if that goes in, then comes up like so. It's made of abyssalite, even though it's normal liquid pipes. I'm trying to use the insulated ones just to kind of show you what it is. The two basically do the same thing. Liquid vent. That should drip above. So what I should hopefully see is that the temperature over here, hopefully it'll be balanced. So what I should probably have is a hydro sensor on this side, so that thing only turns on when this is above a certain amount. One thing I guess I could do is that if the temperature gets cold enough over here, I actually just dump it on over, and maybe I use an aqua tuner to bump that temperature back up. Considering it's so efficient at what it's trying to do, that might actually just be a better plan than to continuously pump it. I don't know. Let's see what happens here. So the temperatures are way off. Let's see here. Just the temperature +5. We're using a new tool now. Oh, that got hot. Well, that's 40. Ooh, okay. Cool. That's a useful little tool. Ooh, and then I'm going to use the spawner. Critter. Yeah. And we're going to bring in a slickster. Pow, 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 pow. Okay, so once again, I'm going to try fertilizer. Over here, it will do 5 kilograms. No. Don't you dare move this. Oh, okay. Fine. You do it. Wham. Take that. Bunch of dupes just lost their job. They got nothing else to do now. They can just starve to death. Alright, so let's see how this goes. If we take a look at the temperature of the crude oil, it's going in at 38.8 and it's coming out at 24.8. If we take a look at the crude oil over here on the right, we should see its temperature increase as it's processing. Interesting how this runs. Actually, if I set this like to 50 kilograms, it should run a little bit longer. That's kind of that's weird. Man, it's really running now. Okay. Let's see what happens here. So it's 22 on the left, 40 on the right. Running out of power again. All right, so this system is generating a pretty good difference in temperature. I mean, it's taking several cycles and a lot of coal, but you know, hey, it's doing its job. I would have had to go and put this AND gate right here. The system maxed out. So the temperature over here on the left got too cool. So that's kind of what I thought would happen. Just get too cool too fast. So what I'm going to use is a liquid tepidizer over here on the left. And you know, I could probably just make that out of anything I want to at this point. Doesn't really matter. Let's make it out of wolframite then. However, that's only going to turn on when that is not. Maybe a bit much. Maybe a bit much. The thermal shift plate. Through that. Oh, that's why. That right there is made of abyssalite instead of being a radiant pipe. Aha. Big difference. And that also needs a really strong filter gate on it so that it doesn't accidentally turn on, because this thing will cycle every once in a while. So that should probably be set for like 60 seconds. I could also just put a temperature sensor right above here so that it actually maintains, you know, a good temperature. But yeah, well, whatever. Alrighty. This thing's working pretty hard, but the crude oil temperature is now up to 120 degrees Celsius. That means the temperature of my fertilizer is only at 85. It's trying. It makes me wonder if I use something like a tungsten thermal shift plate, if that'll go faster. No, not really. However, what we can see is that the system's working really quite well in order to create a massive, you know, temperature delta between these two areas. So over here on the left, you know, we're talking, that's at nearly 0 degrees Celsius. Over here on the right, we're 132 degrees. And that chlorine's doing its job of creating that little bit of buffer zone that I need. It'd probably be better without this AND gate here, you know, if I could hide that somewhere else. But looks like it's working. So the amount of power that we're using to get this system up to temperature is 864 kilojoules. That's a lot of power. Just use magma. Just use magma, Brothgar. Please use magma. I know. I just wanted to make a machine tonight. That's all. I'm actually quite curious to see how much power this uses now that it's up to temperature. So now it's being throttled because the temperature on the left is getting too cold. Like it's like balanced pretty much. And this thing is nearly completing, nearly, if I set it to 45 seconds, it'll actually work. Yeah, see, now it's up and running again. Oh, but hey, look at this. Now I have dirt. So it actually did do it. So that dirt is about 130 degrees Celsius right now. So if I dig it up, it should transfer over. So it's picking up the dirt and it's moving it on over here to the left. I've got 2,500 kilograms inside of there, and you can see the temperature. Well, it's kind of hot. So now it's going to have to work to cool back down. Meanwhile, I'm going to put more fertilizer. I only put 500 kilograms in this time, and look at how quickly it's going up in temperature. Oh, the reason it isn't running is because it's not at maximum capacity. Well, let's fill it up. I put another thermal shift plate directly behind this to see if that would make a difference. It looks like it's actually spreading quite a bit more heat around. Ooh, maybe a little too much. Maybe a little too much. Fertilizer is heating up. This system over here on the left is actually like really cold, but it's also really hot. So it doesn't want to like just continuously run. Which means I have to add, let's get rid of all of this. We don't need that. I'm just gonna put a thermal sensor here. Okay, and then plug that in. As long as this is on if it's below negative 10 degrees Celsius. That's all. There, so now the system's running a little bit better. Yeah. I've run through all of my coal. Oh my gosh. I had a lot of it too. All right, well, personally, I feel like the system over here on the left is just too inefficient for what it's doing. I like the idea of a cooling loop that uses magma or something like that just to heat convey into one area and, you know, heat up some fertilizer. I think that's a much better way to go about it. So maybe I'll explore that in the next episode or something like that. It'd be far simpler than this system, even though it is kind of cool and it was kind of fun to make. However, there's a different idea that's been stuck in my head that I just want to see if it could possibly work. Gas pipe. Oops, wrong one. I must see if this works. Come on now, just please. Please work. All right, so what I got going on over here, I mean, I'm only gonna touch on this for a little bit just before I end the video here. This, obviously, is a gas pump. This is a natural gas generator. Okay, so if I take oxygen and I set this equipment to be exactly 121 degrees Celsius. Let's see what happens. So this will affect the buildings as well. I'll also kind of put some oil down there, right? Some oil, some liquid. So the temperature. So what I'm trying to do here is get this natural gas generator to operate at just the very, very limit. I want it to be hot enough to where the polluted water that's coming out of it turns directly into steam. Of course, I got this metal tile above there, which is just kicking my butt right now, but maybe this is a fun idea, and maybe this is also a way to generate some dirt directly from the natural gas generator without having to do anything fancy. I don't know how we're going to do it, but you know what? What? Its evaporation, it's 120.6, but its evaporation point is 119.4. It should be making steam. Okay, fine. What if I just mop all of this stuff up? Hey! Hey! Ooh, I saw some steam. Come on now. Come on. Interesting. So that's just, even though the water's hot enough, it's not ending up steam. Well, I mean, it is ending up steam. I'm definitely getting steam out of it. But I still have, like, a lot of polluted water. So this natural gas generator is constantly running at a temperature that is above the point at which it will turn dirt. It should make steam. Bye. Okay, so now it seems like it's working. Steam is more or less just continuing to build up. All I did is like put the space over it. put a piece of equipment over here on the left and really didn't do anything with it. But yeah, I seem to get more and more steam now. Maybe it hits a certain point and then just stops converting. Strange. Really strange. Oh, come on, Slicksters. You all got to do your job a little bit more. My dupes. Look at them. They got to climb a ladder just to breathe. Okay, so how am I pumping water at a temperature above the point at which it should be evaporating? What madness is this? Dirt. Hang on. All I did is put a little battery down here. Now this battery just puts out a little extra heat. And the system's all running by itself too, so that's kind of fun. So now I'm going direct to steam. I'll set this up to be 121. See, just a little nudge, and then it stops. Well now, I'm looking at the time, and it seems like I've been playing Oxygen Not Included, because surprise, surprise, it's way later than I thought it was. I like this idea. It's fun. It isn't working. I feel like it should be working. Come on! Give me steam! Steam! There's an idea for you. Maybe you can get that to work. Alright, so let's wrap this thing up. What did we learn today? Utility-wise, space heaters, that crazy little system that was, way back when, still actually works. It doesn't actually do a lot, but it does work. Obviously, you can get the liquid tepidizer to do what you want. All you gotta do is kind of trick it so that it runs, and by all means, it'll definitely get hot enough to make steam. So if your objective is to turn polluted water into steam and then get the dirt from there, that's a good way of going about it. It works, but I think that's something that won't last forever. This system over here, using the thermal aqua tuner, trying to counterbalance itself back and forth, or whatever we're doing over here, works. It's a little bit crazy though, I'll give it that. But the thing is, the big thing with this system here is that it takes a lot of power to convert what isn't really all that much dirt. I mean, it's 2,500 kilograms of dirt is pretty good, but it's not, huge, considering how much power you got to pump into it. So until Oxygen Not Included includes something like a burner where we can take coal and just fire up a furnace or something like that, I think we got to come up with some other methods to really, cook fertilizer. At one point, I used kind of a pitcher pump that was dipped into some lava, and that lava was delivered into a room. And once you did that, you were able to cook quite a bit of fertilizer that way by just using lava. And we do have some new features now that allow us to use radiant pipes and whatnot, and also the sensors to kind of sequence the liquid through and potentially do that for us, creating some sort of heat conveyor, again, which is another thing that I've kind of played around with on my channel. So you can search for those two things. But I'll have to cover that here in the next video or so because I'm simply out of time. This system over here on the right, fun idea, not necessarily working, but there's gotta be a way. I mean, there's just gotta be a way. Does it really have anything to do with what we're trying to accomplish tonight? A little bit, maybe not a whole lot. But it's a fun idea. At any rate, guys, hope you guys have enjoyed this little episode here of Oxygen Not Included. Thanks for watching. If I've earned your subscription, then thank you so much for that. Have a great day, guys. Stay awesome. Peace. Brothgar out.